And we're back. I'm Graham Jason Matthews, and you are listening to WrestleRant. Here today, we're breaking down the 2013 WWE Money in the Bank pay-per-view as seen in the WWE Network. Now, initially, I did not watch this on the internet or on the network or whatever. I purchased it live, and that's a rarity if you know me well. I never used to buy pay-per-views before the network came along. I wouldn't even buy WrestleMania. I would go over a friend's house for it. The only pay-per-views I ever bought before the network were other than going to a friend's house and watching them over there, the only pay-per-views I ever bought were Royal Rumble 2010, Night of Champions 2010, and I think Royal Rumble 2013, and then Money in the Bank 2013. I think those were the only four pay-per-views I ever bought in my not many years, but 7 years as a wrestling fan before the network came along. So watching this back was great, and I watched it back via DVR. Like I said, the whole purpose of WrestleRant is so you can go back and watch pay-per-views on the network for free this month once again. But I had this saved on DVR, something I did not do when I watched the other pay-per-views. I forgot to record Royal Rumble. I forgot to record I think I recorded Night of Champions. It just got erased or something. By some miracle, the recording is still saved on my DVR. I'm surprised that no one from my household deleted it, but it was great watching it back nevertheless. Money in the Bank 2013, I loved this show. Initially, I loved watching it back. It continued that strong streak of pay-per-views in 2013. Now, in retrospect, 2013 was not one of my favorite years in wrestling. The fall sucked. The road to WrestleMania was not good. The only real highlight of that year, in my opinion, was the spring season was okay too. It got better as it went along. The only real highlight of the year of 2013, for me anyway, was the summer. The summer that year was off the charts in WWE. We had a great Extreme Rules pay-per-view, a great Payback pay-per-view, an awesome Money in the Bank pay-per-view, which I'm going to review right now, and an even better, a sensational SummerSlam on the following month. Those four pay-per-views, four consecutive amazing events, and it was just never the same after that. It wasn't the same before that. WrestleMania sucked that year, so WrestleMania, by every account, was so much better than WrestleMania was. So kicking off the show, I won't really review it because it's not available on the network. You have to go out of your way to watch it on YouTube or whatever. It's the pre-show match for the WWE Tag Team title, The Shield versus the Usos, and go out of your way to watch this match. It was freaking insane. One of the best matches of 2013 and easily the best pre-show match ever in the history of WWE's kickoff shows. It was fantastic. You know, both these teams really went out there and put on one hell of a show, especially for a team like the Usos, who have always been talented, but they have never really, what's the word I'm looking for? They were never really all that over before this point. They were never seen as legitimate threats to those tag team titles. However, there were various points during this matchup where people thought maybe they actually will win the championships here. And I mean, they were only 2 months removed from when the Shield won the belt, so it wasn't that big of a possibility. But it was still an incredible match. Almost got 15 minutes on the kickoff show. Go out of your way to watch it. Like I said, not on the network, but it is available on YouTube, on WWE.com, whatever. Just go find it. Kicking off the actual show, though, was the SmackDown side of things, the Money in the Bank ladder match, where the winner would earn a future shot at any time, at any place of their choosing, at the WWE, or just the World Heavyweight Championship, not the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I don't want to confuse you, just when it was the World Heavyweight Championship. The combatants included Fandango, Dean Ambrose, who was U.S. champion at that time, Wade Barrett, Cody Rhodes, Jack Swagger, Antonio Cesaro, and Damian Sandow. Now, the interesting thing about this show and both of the Money in the Bank ladder matches was that both matches, one of them was like an up-and-comer, I forgot what they called it, but it was all heels for the most part, which did not really, I mean, on paper it's like, oh, why would they do a match with all heels? There's no one for the crowd to cheer for. But this show, you have to keep in mind, this show took place in Philadelphia, or at least in Pennsylvania. I'm pretty sure it was in Philly. And it didn't matter because they're always a great crowd. They're going to side of the heels regardless. So it didn't really matter that the match was made up of all heels. Anywhere else, it probably wouldn't have made sense. Maybe other than Chicago or in New York and Canada and overseas in England and in the UK. It wouldn't have made sense in like Ohio or if they were in Texas. Like people wouldn't have cared. But because it took place in Philly, they appreciated the action. They loved it. I loved it. I thought it was a great match. And again, the only guy, I forgot what they called it, but it was like an up-and-coming guy, battle royal, a young stars in the rise kind of thing. With the only guy in this matchup who had previously held or had won a Money in the Bank ladder match and been a former world champion was Jack Swagger. Everyone else was a fresh face. That's what to me really made this match exciting. And there was no clear-cut winner. You know, Sandow and Rhodes, although Sandow won, I was not expecting him to win. They were doing the whole Rhodes Scholars things with him and The whole Rhodes Scholars thing, I keep on botching that, with him and Cody at that period in time. So it wasn't like obviously he would win. Fandango was not going to win. Dean Ambrose is the big possibility of him winning. Wade Barrett as well. Cesaro, maybe Swagger. So there was a lot of possibilities here as to who could win this briefcase. So that's what made the match exciting for one thing. And then everyone delivered. Ambrose was an MVP here. You know, the Real Americans were a freaking great tag team. They were working together. There was no ladder in the ring. So Cesaro went up on Jack Swagger's shoulders, trying to reach up and grab the briefcase. That was the sweet spot. They were using the ladder like, you know, when they do the spot, when they have it around their necks and they swing around and they attack people with it. I think they were going for that. I'm not really sure, but they had the ladder held up high. Dean Ambrose, or they were going to whack Ambrose with an no. Ambrose had it on his neck, and he was going to whack him with it. And the Real Americans grabbed both ends of it. So Ambrose took the ladder. Although he botched the first time, it wasn't a huge blown spot, whatever. He grabbed the ladder, did a sit-up, and he rolled himself on top of the ladder, almost grabbing the briefcase before he got unceremoniously tossed to ringside. Great spot. The crowd loved it. Everyone here was great. Cody Rhodes was, Ambrose was awesome here, but Cody Rhodes was the freaking MVP of this contest. He delivered multiple crossroads. He dumped people to ringside. Dean Ambrose was about to climb the ladder he was about to climb the ladder and win when the Shield came out, because again, it's no DQ, so people can interfere if they want. The Shield comes down. Ambrose is ascending the ladder. Cody Rhodes pushes the ladder over to ringside, knocks out everyone at ringside. It was a great spot. He was doing a muscle buster. I think he hit a muscle buster on top of the ladder to maybe Cesaro, maybe Barrett, or I think maybe Cesaro or Fandango, whoever. Forgot who it was to, but it was a sweet spot. Cody Rhodes ascends the ladder. Damian Sandow, who spent most of the match hiding at ringside, they got a quick camera shot of him just crawling to ringside or whatever. He came back out, tossed Cody Rhodes, he shoved him off the ladder, he climbed the ladder himself, and won the Money in the Bank ladder match. Great finish, great match, amazing opener. Love this match. It's been one of the better Money in the Bank ladder matches of all time, in my opinion. I thought it was very underrated. And like I said before, it probably would not have worked if it was in anywhere else other than Philadelphia or one of the other smarky crowds. And it's a shame, really, because the aftermath of this matchup, of this event, was very much botched. Sandow and Rhodes had a ready-made feud. It turned Cody Rhodes babyface. It was great. And then, just out of nowhere, Sandow lost all of his matches. He lost his matches to Santino and R-Truth, all these joke guys, and then he cashed in unsuccessfully. I know he had a star-making performance against John Cena, but that's no excuse. Other than that, he didn't go on to do anything. He had a failed shot against the IC champion Big E that December, at that period in time, the then Intercontinental champion. But all these years later, other than the Mizdow stuff, the guy is back to being an enhancement talent. It's a real shame, because I thought they had a star in Sandow when he won this matchup, but they just botched the aftermath, and it was very sad to see. But still, a great opener nevertheless. Up next to the Intercontinental Championship, Curtis Axel defending against The Miz. Curtis Axel was the de facto babyface here since he had Paul Heyman in his corner. Since he obviously is an ECW original, the ECW founder, a Philly well-known a hero in the Philly crowd's eyes. So, Axel was the de facto babyface here. He was made even a bigger babyface when Paul Heyman got thrown out from ringside. Miz, mocked Heyman attacking him. He did like an old Eddie Guerrero where he pretended that Heyman slapped him. He laid down on the ground. Referee turned around. He heard the slap. He thought Heyman did it, so he banned him from ringside. And Axel was even more over because of that, because they didn't want to see Miz win. And unfortunately, for Miz, he did not. He came up short. Axel, having a very good showing here, was not as good as a triple threat match from Payback. That was kind of like the theme for the undercard, but I still thought it was a great match. A much better than expected. It kind of heated up down the stretch with a lot of cool near falls. Axel hitting the perfect plex, Miz locking in the the figure four leg lock at various points. But in the end, though, Axel hitting his neckbreaker, winning clean to retain his Intercontinental Championship. Again, it's just a shame that the aftermath with Axel as Intercontinental Champion was not done right. He lost all of his matches against CM Punk. He got no rub from that feud whatsoever. And that's why he was dead in the water as Intercontinental Champion, because he never was seen as a threat, because he lost so many times and he was back to being a jobber, which sucks. Anyway, up next for the Divas Championship, AJ Lee defending against Caitlyn. Same thing with like the IC title match. I thought their Payback match was much better. It told a better story. This was more of a match than it was a story, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. I mean, I hate to say the worst match on the show, just people were not really into the contest. They had a really good feud, though, and it was kind of a placeholder. You know, they had the big title change of Payback. They had the big intergender tag team match with Caitlyn and Ziggler versus AJ and Big E at SummerSlam the following month. So this was kind of a placeholder. So a decent match, though. It was good for what it was. Not as much time as they were given a Payback, as I mentioned before, but still decent. AJ winning clean to retain her Divas Championship. Not much else to say other than that. Up next, Ryback taking on Chris Jericho. A decent match. Again, not great, but Jericho made the most of it. I thought down the stretch they worked well together. They put together a fun final few minutes, and Ryback went over in the end cleanly with a roll-up. I thought he just should have won just with a shell shock. I guess they wanted to protect Jericho, even though he was on his way out. I didn't really see the purpose of that. But Ryback's first pay-per-view victory, fun fact for you, maybe not so fun fact, but his first pay-per-view victory since the year prior's Money in the Bank pay-per-view, which I reviewed here on the channel a couple days ago, back on Tuesday, when he beat the duo of Kurt Hawkins and Tyler Rex in handicap action. So it was a long overdue win for Ryback on pay-per-view, and he should have gotten it much sooner. I don't know why they waited so long to finally get this guy a win on pay-per-view. Jericho was on his way out, so I had no problem with the result. The feud was really a nothing feud. They just kind of threw these guys together at the last minute. I really thought it should have been Del Rio, Ziggler, and Jericho in a triple threat because they were teasing that at one point, and they didn't go that direction for whatever reason. But it was a nice win for Ryback. I didn't really was too invested in the action. I wasn't as much invested as the action as I probably should have been. But just the feud was kind of forgettable. But still a good win for Ryback and fun, a fun final few minutes, as I mentioned before, down the stretch. Up next for the World Heavyweight Championship, Alberto Del Rio defending against Dolph Ziggler in a match that I thought was even better than their Payback match. The Payback match told a better story, but from an in-ring action standpoint, I thought this matchup was better. The crowd was red hot for Ziggler, a guy they never really established as a full-fledged babyface. Going into the show, they were way behind Ziggler, so the timing of this show being in Philadelphia could not have been better because they were red hot for him throughout. They really wanted to see him win back that World Heavyweight Championship. And it had a great outing against Del Rio. He hit the zigzag at one point. Del Rio had the arm breaker locked in. He hit the kick that won him the World Heavyweight title that JBL stressed on commentary, emphasized months after that. The one that won the kick that won him the world title, blah, 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 blah. He would always say that every single time that Del Rio hit that kick. I don't know if that kick won him any matches after that point. But anyway, he hit that kick at one point in this matchup. It did not win him the matchup. And just a lot of suspenseful near falls. I was very much, unlike the previous three matches, I was really invested in the near falls in the final stretch of this contest. I thought it was great. They probably should have gotten some more time, but for what it was, loved it. Really enjoyable matchup. The finish, people would call it weak, but by storyline standards, it made sense. It furthered the story with Ziggler and AJ. Ziggler was about to put Del Rio away when AJ came in and just clocked Del Rio with her Divas Championship, thus getting Dolph Ziggler disqualified and helping Del Rio retain the World Heavyweight Championship. So, kind of a dumb decision on her part. They kind of blamed it on her being crazy. I don't know if her intentions were all along to split away from Ziggler. I'm not really sure. But, the referee was looking the entire time, so they never really established why she did that. Unless she's dumb. I know she's crazy, but she's not stupid. So I don't know what the purpose of that was. So some people might call it a weak finish, but it was better than having Ziggler get pinned. Granted, they did that the next night, but, on this show, though, I thought it was better to kind of further the split, cement the split between Ziggler and AJ going into the SummerSlam pay-per-view. So an excellent and very well-wrestled matchup from Del Rio and Ziggler. And I thought it would have been better, you keep Ziggler in chase mode, he wraps up his feud with AJ, then he goes right back after the World Heavyweight Championship, because that was a story that was never really resolved. And unfortunately, they never really went back to that. They put RVD in the title picture instead, a Night of Champions, and Ziggler was back to being another mid-card guy, unfortunately. But for what it was, loved the matchup, thought it was great. Great stuff from both Del Rio and Ziggler on this show. Up next for the WWE Championship, John Cena defending against Mark Henry. In a very good matchup. You see that matchup on paper, you're like, oh, what a poop match. That's what I would say if you didn't see the story. But this whole matchup stemmed from that one angle that Mark Henry did on that June 17th edition of Raw, one of my favorite episodes of Raw that year, if not my favorite episode of Raw from 2013. Just phenomenal. That whole, I'm going to retire angle, I'm going to swerve everybody. World's Strongest Slams, John Cena setting up this WWE title match for the pay-per-view. Just amazing stuff. I thought all around it was excellent, and the feud going into this was very well done. Granted, I didn't think there was a chance in hell of Mark Henry winning, but they did put that in disbelief with all the near falls, Cena hitting an AA, Mark Henry kicking out, Mark Henry catching John Cena when he jumped off the top rope, hitting the World's Strongest Slam on him for a close 2 count. So that was great. Had a lot of drama, had a lot of suspense, much like the other world title match between Del Rio and Ziggler. Just these guys put forth a strong effort. I commend them. Mark Henry's, in my opinion, last truly great match. I mean, I know that's not saying much because he hasn't even been on TV for the most part in the last 2 years, but I thought it was an amazing match. I thought it was great from, a matchup involving John Cena and Mark Henry, two guys that have never really been known to have great matches together. I thought this was great. Really, really enjoyed it. Mark Henry was not made to look very strong in defeat. He had to tap out. I thought it was kind of dumb if they're going to do a rematch at SummerSlam. They went with Daniel Bryan instead. And then I think Mark Henry went babyface like the next night on Raw and the Shield attacked him. But still, I thought this was great. Really enjoyed it. And John Cena, still your WWE champion. So then we get to the main event, an All-Stars Money in the Bank ladder match where the winner would earn a contract at any time in any place of their choosing at the WWE Championship. So the combatants included Christian, Daniel Bryan, Rob Van Dam, Randy Orton, CM Punk, and Sheamus. Kane was originally supposed to be in the matchup, but due to getting attacked by Bray Wyatt on the Raw before this pay-per-view, they dwindled it down to just 6 competitors, which was probably for the best instead of having Bray Wyatt come in. I know that was a rumor at the time. Why that would have made sense, I have no idea. But I'm glad they just kept it down to 6 guys because this matchup was amazing. I've gone on record in the past in saying that the Money in the Bank ladder match from WrestleMania 24 is my favorite Money in the Bank ladder match of all time. But in watching this at the time, I watched it back like the next day because I thought it was so freaking great. And in watching it back just a couple days ago, this might be my favorite Money in the Bank ladder match. I would have to watch both of them back to back to truly determine, but if it's not my favorite, it's a very close number 2, along with the SmackDown version from 2011. I thought this was just phenomenal. Again, this was the pay-per-view that Rob Van Dam returned at. They announced his return to the Payback pay-per-view. It was announced on Raw shortly thereafter that he'd be a contestant in the Money in the Bank ladder match. The first sighting of RVD in a WWE ring in nearly 6 years. So it was a great, grand return for RVD. And where better than in Philadelphia at Money in the Bank, a match he had previously won. Punk had won the match before. Daniel Bryan had won the match before. So a lot of former Money in the Bank winners involved in this contest. And it truly was an all-stars ladder match. Everyone put forth a great effort. RVD hitting a 5-star frog splash from the top of the ladder on top of Christian. Sheamus getting fucking destroyed. I think an injury that he sustained in this matchup kept him out of action for the next 6 months. This match was reckless. I mean, I called the SmackDown match from the year prior in 2012 reckless, but that was more in a bad way. I mean, it was fun and chaotic, this one. I mean, they took a lot of insane spots and everyone got hurt from it, but it didn't hinder my enjoyment. And if anything, it enhanced my enjoyment of this contest. I thought it was just fantastic, and they fired on all cylinders. But Sheamus came out of this thing injured. I think Punk was bloodied and bruised after getting just brutalized by Paul Heyman, who turned on CM Punk. So a lot of storyline-driven stuff in this contest as well. Daniel Bryan just on an absolute roll. He was on complete fire going into this contest. He was the fan favorite to win it. Got laid out by Curtis Axel for whatever reason, and then, like I said, Paul Heyman turning on CM Punk. But the crowd loved Daniel Bryan here. Randy Orton was really good here as well. After Daniel Bryan and CM Punk got taken out, he ascended the ladder. And RVD ascending the ladder, Orton grabbing his foot, throwing him off the ladder right into an RKO, ascending the ladder for himself, taking his time, which was a bit weird, and then pulling down the briefcase and winning the match. I know Randy Orton at that period in time was not a fan favorite. He was not everyone's top pick to win. But at that time, I was happy to see it, and I thought it was great because, he was already on the brink of turning heel, and having him cash in on a downed Daniel Bryan or John Cena would have been the best thing to do. So I thought it was great. And it really furthered that story as to when is he going to cash in, an opportune time, whatever. So, yeah, I thought Randy Orton was the best pick, as Daniel Bryan ended up getting a shot at the WWE Championship anyway the following month without winning the briefcase. So I thought Orton was the perfect guy to win this matchup. And overall, closing out an amazing show. Really, really enjoyed it, and well worth the purchase of only $50, $60, however much it costs on pay-per-view at that time. But you can watch it for free on the WWE Network, and I would strongly recommend watching the show before tomorrow's Money in the Bank pay-per-view for 2015. I thought the show was just excellent on every. They just fired on all cylinders. I loved it, and everyone here was great. And every match here I thought was good to great. The 2 Money in the Bank ladder matches exceeded expectations. Both were phenomenal. The 2 world title matches, both exceptional contests. Cena versus Mark Henry and Del Rio versus Ziggler. Very well wrestled. The crowd was red hot all night long, so a great atmosphere. And the other undercard matches, Ryback and Jericho, AJ and Caitlyn, and then Axel and Miz. Not great matches. I thought their matches from Payback were better, but they were still solid. The right people went over, and I enjoyed them all. So on the whole, a fantastic pay-per-view, 2 thumbs up, one of the better pay-per-views from 2013, along with SummerSlam and all the other pay-per-views I mentioned before, Extreme Rules, Payback, etc., etc. But yeah, very enjoyable show, and I would strongly recommend you watch it on the WWE Network, as I said before tomorrow night, before tomorrow's installment of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. But in the meantime, and in between time, you guys can catch me on Twitter at WrestleRant, on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Make sure to share, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. All support is greatly appreciated. I'll be back tomorrow right here on the YouTube channel with my full in-depth analysis of Money in the Bank 2014. Until then, guys, have a great weekend, and I'll catch you right back here tomorrow on the channel. See you then, guys.